Hey everyone, thank you for stopping by my channel today. If you are new here, my name is Kim, and today we're going to continue from where that last video about safety left off. For those of you that maybe didn't catch the previous video, I am working on a series right now about things that nobody really tells you, or worst case scenarios that maybe you don't want to think about. And if you are planning to still come regardless, things that you can do to make your life not only easier, but safer, healthier, hopefully. And then you don't have to say, God, nobody told me these things. After my last video, I received a DM asking me to please share the story that I mentioned in the previous video about safety concerns that people that are coming to work in Japan may want to be aware of and think about. Hey, Bandit. So yes, so as I said, I've got one little story listener in front of me. This story took place in the 1990s, and I was working in Tottori Prefecture. For those of you that don't know, Tottori Prefecture is one of the most rural prefectures in Japan. It's, in my opinion, one of the most beautiful prefectures. It's often not someplace that people go to visit. However, I would highly recommend going there because it is absolutely beautiful. When you have a year where most of your close friends have finished their JET program contract and they've decided to go back to their home country, there's a lot of farewells. And so it's kind of sad to see everybody go. And that's where I was at this point in my life. I had finished my JET contract, and I was working at a private school in the same area, Tottori Prefecture. I came back from my trip home, and it was really lonely because I had said goodbye to so many close friends. Of course, I was going to see my friends that had renewed, but they hadn't come back from their summer breaks yet. Let me explain to you one of the types of residences that you might have as a foreign worker in Japan. There are these apartments called one-room mansions. Mansion is the word they use like condominium. So it's essentially almost like a high-rise or a big complex that has a lot of units. Sometimes they're for sale, sometimes they're for rent. But a one-room mansion is basically equivalent to a studio apartment in the US. It's, you know what else I can compare it to? Like a dorm room. Maybe that's a better comparison. It's like a college dorm room. So it's not very big, and there usually isn't a whole lot of closet space. Usually you do a little makeshift closet with bars or shelving, but very, very small. There were several other people that were on the JET program that also lived in the same building. I had come back to my complex, and there's the bicycle parking lot, and then there's an area where everyone's mailboxes are. In order to get into the building, you needed a card key. And if you were visiting someone in the building, you had to ring their number or their floor, and then they would buzz you in. There was a young man that was kind of sitting around the step area, and you know, the way I could describe how he was dressed was very preppy, just a shirt, a button-down shirt, and slacks. Casual, but not like sporty or athletic, right? I don't know if that's a very good explanation or description. But when I came, he sort of said in broken English that, you know, he was sent here because he just moved from Osaka, and he was going to start at the university because Tottori had a university, and he said that he was studying English, or he was interested in studying English. He had heard from some of the, hello man, some of the people that there were several foreign teachers that worked here, so he was hoping he could meet and get some English help. Okay? Now, as sorry, Bandit. As sketchy as this sounds, this was very common because we didn't have internet, we didn't have cell phones, and so usually, excuse Bandit's little head. So usually if people wanted to contact you, they either had to call you your landline phone, or sometimes if they had your address or your information from the school, they would maybe just wait in front of your apartment. And as I told you in my previous video, there was a community billboard that had the names of people that were in the building. So if you saw a foreign name, then you would maybe want to be curious and see if that foreign teacher could help you with something. I don't know. I'm glad that things have changed since then. But yeah, so I said, oh yeah, there are several teachers here, but I don't want to speak for them. I don't remember all the details, but just very pleasant. He said, I'd like to see you, or I'd like to talk with you again. I said, I just got back from the U.S., which was true, and I'm a little bit tired, right now. Why don't you come back at another time when maybe I could get all the teachers together and, you could meet everyone and find a friend that way, which she was okay with. Another girl who was on the JET program and who still currently lives in Japan in a different area was coming back from her trip, and her boyfriend at the time, now he's her husband, was Japanese, and so this guy returned at the same time when I just happened to be talking with my friend and her boyfriend. We invited him to come up, and the four of us were in my particular apartment unit. Once again, remember, it's just one room. And we were all talking, and we decided to all go out to dinner together. We all went out to dinner together. I think we went out to karaoke afterwards, so it was really fun. Not a romantic evening for us, but it was just like a nice group of four sharing a meal, sharing some fun, and that was it. Now that I think about it, one-room mansions, it's just everything's there. It's not like you have a room to hide stuff in. Like a lot of people, I think, right in your entryway, which they call in Japanese your genkan, where you keep your shoes and maybe your mailbox is right there. I had a little ashtray or little bowl, and I put spare change or keys, or when you come in your front door, I always had a place to put my keys. I also had extra keys there in addition to the key that I used. Once again, I didn't think anything of it. You know where this is getting to, right? So a few days went by. I don't remember exactly how much time went by, but I was cleaning up, and I'll admit this about myself. I'm pretty messy. According to what Japanese people believe about people that have blood type B, we look very disorganized and our stuff is everywhere. But we know where everything is, and we're pretty good about, even though our place is chaotic and stuff is all over the place, we know where things are. I was unpacking, and I noticed that this bill was gone. It was an old Japanese, was it 1,000 yen bill that my grandfather had given to me. And because after I came to Japan and realized that it wasn't the same as the other bills, I thought, oh, this must be an old style one. I'm going to keep it for good luck or just as a memento of my grandfather. And I put it in kind of my place where I kept everything. It was sort of like, not a safe, but just a container that had various things in it. I also looked at my wallet, and I could have sworn I had 20 US dollars. Yes, Bandit. I have a very, very glued guest here. So I thought, God, I could have sworn I had $20. Come here, you can come sit here. But it wasn't in my wallet. I thought to myself, surely when this guy was over at the time when all four of us were talking and laughing, surely he didn't take anything, right? I was a little bit puzzled. So the next time when this guy came up, presumably to have English lessons, which was always the gist of it, wanting to practice English with foreigners. This was all before apps and places where you could just do language exchanges online. I asked this guy, hey, did you by chance take some, like, my $20 out of my wallet? And I can't remember the exact wording I used. It probably sounded like I accused him, right? So he got a little upset. And he said, well, your friend from the U.S., the other girl, she might have taken it. She's from the U.S. Maybe, you know, her or her boyfriend took it. Like, why are you accusing me? That kind of drew yellow flags because I thought, why would you get so defensive? And then I thought, well, it was probably rude of me. So I didn't want to bring up this issue about the other money being taken, or the bill that my grandfather had. But I thought, okay, I'm just going to drop it. I don't know how much time passed, but the four of us, my upstairs neighbors, or, you know, my friend and her boyfriend, and me and this guy, the four of us went out to dinner, and afterwards, I think we went to like a nearby bar or something, and then we all went back to the apartment. This guy asked if, you know, I can't remember exactly, but it was something to do about payday, or how much do foreign teachers make. And you're told at JET orientation, don't ever discuss your salary with anyone, because sometimes the difference between what JET teachers make is different than what Japanese teachers make. And the salary for such a program and for foreigners is pretty nice. I mean, it's comfortable compared to maybe somebody that was working a minimum wage job. Why would all of a sudden this interest in money happen? He said, you know, like, how much money do you carry around? And he went to my purse, and I said, okay, that's it. You know, I think you need to leave. I don't remember exactly how, like, whether I went to go grab the money or something, but he grabbed me and threw me down on the floor. I'm pretty light. I mean, at the time, I'm heavy now, but at the time, I was about 100 pounds. Like I said, I was light back then. That was, what, almost 25 or 30 years ago. And he picked me up, threw me, and I started crying, and I was okay. Like, I wasn't hurt, but kind of for dramatic purposes, I guess. I was crying, and, you know, I said, you know, what are you doing? And he said, I need to borrow some money. I need to, you know, I'm just taking this. And I said, that's stealing. In my best, my Japanese was not so good, but I did know certain words. And he said, go ahead and tell me. Who are they going to believe, you or me? You don't speak enough Japanese to be able to, you know, tell anybody anything. And he said, you can go, if you're hurt. Sorry, I've got like a hair bandage. He said, if you're hurt, you can go to the doctor and you can tell them whatever story, because they're not going to believe that somebody, you know, threw you down. And I couldn't understand everything, but it was very, you know, and I thought to myself, I always keep my head, like, even though it was like, oh, great, what am I dealing with? But I just kept my head, and I said, I just want to be by myself, da 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 da. He took whatever cash I had in my purse and he left. I thought, oh great, what am I dealing with? I just wasn't going to answer my door anymore. I just wasn't going to let him in my place. I was basically cutting off all communication. When I came home from work one day, I thought, this is not how I left my place, but I couldn't be 100% sure. So I don't know about you guys, but when I was little, and maybe some of you did this too when you were younger if you had siblings, or even if you didn't want your parents coming into your bedroom, did you used to set like little traps or little things? Okay, maybe this is my over-suspicious detective mind, because I used to close my door and I used to like do the thing where you would put tape at the top or at the bottom, or you'd have some things right in place so that if somebody came in, as they opened the door, you would know because the tape was, you know, gone, but you did it very discreetly. Okay, so I used to always set those little, not booby traps, but little things just to see if people were coming into my room. Maybe it's something like we do too, like I always used to keep a diary, and you didn't want anybody reading your diary, so you'd set little things, like you'd put it in places and have different things, so if someone tried to read it and you would come, you would see that things were knocked over or, you know, put out of place. Well, maybe thanks to that, I kind of did that to my apartment, and I set little traps all around my apartment to see if somebody was coming into my apartment when I wasn't there. My key was still in my key box thing, so I knew it wasn't stolen, but I just had a lot of suspicions. Sure enough, there was a day that I came back and I knew that things had been tampered with. And so then I thought, okay, what am I going to do? Because this guy is coming into my apartment when I'm not there. And first of all, anyone who knows me is, I don't have very much stuff of value. I really don't. I have things of sentimental value that nobody would know or that nobody would care about. Even though that bill from my grandfather, it was an old Japanese bill, I don't think it was worth anything, but it was special to me because it was from my grandfather. I don't have any nice jewelry because I'm just not someone that has things like that. I mean, my jewelry, if people looked at it, they'd probably think, oh my gosh, what's wrong with this girl? For me, I guess my TV was the most important device because we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have computers, none of that. So I think he was only looking for money, and I don't usually keep any cash around the house, and if I did, it's pretty well hidden. I had one hiding place where I did have some cash, like your emergency cash stash, but even that was not so much. I don't use it anymore. I don't put it there anymore, but I will share it with you in case some of you have the same hiding place and you might want to reconsider. I had my like spare cash in, you know how they have those ice chests, icebox chests? I had it in a small cooler box, the ice chest, and that ice chest was in another cooler box. And right then I had all the other stuff, like my suitcase and everything else, piled on top of it. So since I didn't have a lot of storage space, you would have had to look pretty doggone hard to go to find what little cash I had. I remember coming home and checked there, and it was gone. It was gone. So now I started to have more and more proof. So everything I was documenting. I also had phone messages, because I had an answering machine, and we used, back in the day, we used cassette tapes inside your answering machine. I had a lot of messages from this person, and I think what he was doing was checking to see whether I was home or whether I was picking up. There were some threats on it, and I thought if ever I needed to go to the police, then I had this stuff. It was so easy to get into our building, because what you do is, if someone else was coming into the apartment, you just come in with them. Like, it's a security building, but it's not that secure. Anybody can come in and slip in when somebody else is entering, and nobody checks, right? I don't remember the exact situation, but I remember two things I did that, when I think about it, it's very TV-ish. One thing I did was I gave a packet of things that were valuable to me, like my passport, all kinds of documents and things I needed to keep safe. I gave it to, we had a CIR, which is a coordinator of international relationships in our building, and she was from South Korea. And I asked her, because he knew all the foreigners that lived in the building, and he knew I was friends with everyone, like my neighbor and the girl that was upstairs, but he didn't know this Korean CIR. And I asked her, can you keep this bag? It's got important things. And I told her the situation that was happening, and I told her that I needed certain items protected, and I was too afraid that if I gave those items for my other friends to protect, he might hassle and bother them. And so all this time, like, you're probably thinking, Kim, why didn't you go to the police? I still didn't have enough confidence into how I was going to report all this. But don't worry, that comes later. Anyway, so she safeguarded all my things for me. Thank you to her. There was also, I wrote a note because, okay, you guys know, the people that know me know I always watched TV movies back in Los Angeles. We used to have things like Movie of the Week and Lifetime movies. That was me. I wrote a note. I wrote, like, if anything happens to me, if you find me dead or killed or murdered or something bad, this is the person that did it. I had the person's name. I had all my items of proof. I had where to go to get the documents, you know, all that kind of stuff. I had written it all in English, and it was just to make sure that if anything did happen to me, that I had everything there to prove that I didn't run away, or I didn't do something to myself that was dangerous, all that kind of stuff. I just really wanted to cover all my bases. There was also one day, this thing I remembered, which when I think about it, it was pretty stupid to do. It was risky. I was trying to get evidence that he was breaking into my apartment. I think I set a tape recorder, a little tape recorder, in a corner. I hid it someplace because I needed the proof that it was a break-in, not a I let this person in, not a I gave the person the key. I wanted everything to be proof that this guy was breaking in and searching my apartment for money. So I remember I had my stuff set up and I hid in the bathtub. And Japanese bathtubs have a cover for it so that if you heat up water, or if you have the hot water and you want to keep the water and heat it up later for your bath, you can put the cover over it. And yeah, it keeps the water. I just waited. Thinking back, that was pretty risky to do, but I didn't make a sound. And then, yeah, I heard rummaging and he left. And so then I had another piece of info, right? Like I had the tape. He didn't come with anybody. Another interesting connection happened. At the school where I worked at, one of my students said to me, "Hey, do you know so-and-so?" Yes. How do you know? And she said, "Oh," she goes, "my boyfriend is friends with so-and-so." And I was like, "Oh." Didn't tell her any information. And she said, are you guys dating? Are you guys seeing each other?" And I said, "No." I said, he was studying English, or he wanted to take language lessons, but things didn't work out. So he doesn't come for English lessons anymore." And she started laughing and she's like, "He's not interested in English." And she said, "I think he's interested in you." And I said, "No," I said, "I'm not interested in him. I'm so much more older." And, right? And she goes, "Oh, no, but he says really nice things about you." So I'm wondering, okay, what is he telling? He's probably telling people another story. During that time, Tottori Prefecture was having this steering committee meeting, or an advisory meeting. And they were inviting certain foreigners who had been in Tottori Prefecture for a while to come and speak at this advisory council meeting. And the topic was living in Tottori and how to make it more comfortable for foreigners, how to make it a more international friendly community, etc. And I was one of the people invited to speak, or invited to take part in these panel discussions. So I had an incident. I guess I'll have to share that one in another video. When I was at this advisory meeting, I had said I had an incident and I needed help calling the police because I couldn't express myself. I couldn't express what I needed done. And I had a Japanese teacher call for me, and all the police said was they were asking more questions about why was this guy at my apartment so late, and they weren't interested in the intruder. They were more interested in the person that was in my apartment at this time of night. And so the advisory, the people that from City Hall were like, "Oh my gosh, we're really sorry." And I said, it's really hard for foreigners to call the police if their Japanese is limited. And for a woman, it's really hard because we may be getting asked these questions, and I couldn't, it was I was just frustrated. So what they chose to do, which I was really grateful for, is they said, we'll tell the police department, and I guess one of the representatives is there, is if you're someone that doesn't speak Japanese, if you say, ask for, if there's a person at the department that speaks English, could you please speak? And I said, I tried that once, and they said, we will assist you, or we will come immediately. If it's a foreigner calling and they need help, we'll send somebody immediately. Does that, and I said, well, that would put my mind to ease, if that could be done. So I felt really good after that advisory meeting. Now I had to deal with this problem with this break-in guy. And I think it was just kind of by fate that this couple that worked in Tottori, the girlfriend had called me about something totally unrelated, and I thought it was related to something else. So I just spilled my guts to her about what was going on with this situation. And she said, oh my gosh, you need to talk to, her boyfriend. And her boyfriend's Japanese was fluent, and he was also from the U.S., and he worked in City Hall. So immediately contacted him, and we got that person from the advisory committee, and we got a member, I think from the police department. And we came up with a plan of action because, of course, immediately we needed to change the locks, but because I lived in a big complex, there's so many people you have to get permission from. And with limited Japanese, it's really hard to get all the permissions you need to. But they said, we'll get you the help you need. We'll get the locks changed. And obviously, when this person comes, he's going to be a little bit shocked. And so he might react. He'll know that you're in there. And during that time, if you can call the police, we'll be there in 2 minutes and and get this taken care of. So they said, can you meet with the police to discuss everything that happened up until this point? So how did he get the keys, or what things could we use if we were going to press charges? Okay, after we decided to do all that, I needed to alert a lot of people, and it was alerting my school about the situation, about what was going on, because I was dealing with the police, and I was going to the police station a lot. People at the police station were absolutely wonderful and very helpful. The interesting thing was when they asked for the person's name, this person actually had several charges against him also, which is why he did in fact run away to Osaka, but he was coming back, probably because he didn't have any money in Osaka. They told me that his parents, his family, filed charges against him for stealing. They suspected he was living in not a share house, but living with a bunch of other young people. He said that he had no affiliation to any gangs. There was some kind of suit filed against him, or there was some kind of trouble that he had. So gang members didn't want anything to do with him. Basically, he was just a punk, like someone that really was looking for money, trying to get it. They suspected it was all from gambling debts from the Japanese game pachinko. And one of the private detectives, or one of the people in charge at the police department said, but the thing that he has going for him is that he doesn't look anything like what a typical teenage thug or so-called criminal would look like, because they said he's very well kept, he's very clean and neat, and he articulates himself very well. So they said you wouldn't think anything, So they said, if we could get your help to get this person, we would be very appreciative. They had to have enough proof, and they had to put things together, and that sometimes, they said, would take time. So I said, okay, I'm willing to help where I can help, because for me, it was lessons. It wasn't that I wanted, anything back. Like anything that was taken, I didn't mind. I wanted my peaceful life back. But I also, one of the reasons why I decided to go through with everything is also, I don't want this to happen to another person. I don't want him to find one of my other friends and target them because they're a foreigner, or do the same trick. I didn't want him to do it to a Japanese person. So I said, yeah, let's go ahead with everything. We had a plan all set. I remember I called my parents and I spoke to my dad. And my dad was like, I'm coming to Japan. And I'm like, Dad, we have everything taken care of. He's like, no, who does this guy think he is? I'll come on the flight, like a good dad would do, right? And I said, Dad, no. I said, if you come right now, we have like this whole plan and this whole mission. Everything is set. Don't worry. I'm safe. I'm taken care of. I have the help of many, many good people that are assisting with this, and I will call and let you know when everything is over. But if you come, it's going to it's going to arouse suspicion. It's going to arouse suspicion, and we might not be able to get him. And so then my dad was like, okay, I know my dad was mad. So the key lock people, or the people that were changing the locks, came at a time when we kind of had to stay in front of the apartment because we didn't want him to come in when the keys were being changed. And I think, my friend at City Hall, we were taking turns just kind of monitoring to make sure that the keys and the locks were changed without him suspecting. Next, I alerted all my neighbors and I said, look, everything is fine, but my locks have been changed, and if he comes, might come and he might try and see what happened, or I just wanted to alert them in case he got hysterical, or if in case, I had no idea what was going to happen. That night, it wasn't super late. I don't remember what time, obviously. I don't remember what time, but it was in the night. And sure enough, I hear the key thing going, but nothing's happening. And ringing, just the doorknob shaking. And I had the phone all ready to call the police. I hear him pounding on the door. I think he was drinking, so he had some kind of alcoholic beverage, which was later proof that he was, in the complex. He went to my neighbor, and he told my neighbor, I think something happened to Kim. I'm knocking at her door, and she's not answering, or, I'm sure she's home. She told me to come over, or he said some kind of lie, like I called him to come over, and she's like, oh, really? And we had a signal, as soon as I heard her talking, or, because she was going to come out and see, what's all the, the commotion. So when she was doing that was the time that I was supposed to call. So she was going to keep him engaged with and then I could call. I called the police. They were very friendly. They said they'll be here in 2 minutes. And they were. And they got a hold of him. While they were wherever questioning or dealing with him down at the police car, whatever, the other police came up, checked to see if I was okay, found the alcoholic beverage bottle outside the door, so they knew that, okay, so it was proof that he was in the building and that he was pounding on my door. My neighbor could vouch for that it was him, what he said to her. They said it would take a while to get everything figured out. With all the information they had from me previously, they'll try and get more information. So that was that. The next step was the whole investigation. And I was going to the police station almost every day after school or during the times when I didn't have class to discuss what was going on and confirm a lot of things. So this is what we found out. And this is how amazing law works and how you can rest assured that they have people that can investigate and get whatever proof that you need. It takes time, but they got it. So they were able to track down the bank that he took my $20 to get it exchanged into Japanese yen. Pity for him that the exchange rate was not good. So I don't know what he was thinking, but yeah. And they also had the old bill, or they had the bill that was turned in for money or exchange cash or something. And yeah, so I got that back. What else? They came one day to take fingerprints. They were dusting my place for fingerprints because they needed to find some place or fingerprints that would connect him that wouldn't be found in ordinary visitation. So, right, so if you have friends over, of course you're going to have fingerprints on glasses or things of whatever. And then I remembered my ice chest where I had things missing. So they were able to get good fingerprints off the ice chest. They didn't find, they couldn't find fingerprints, or there were too many things on the key, but they did track down where he was able to make an additional key. So what he did, or what they're assuming, is that the day that when the four of us were all in my apartment, he took the key and had a replica made, and then when he came in on his own, put the key back. So it wasn't missed because, right, it was a spare key, not a key that I normally used. So for those of you that have spare keys, make sure you hide them well or put them in a place where they're not going to be taken easily. And I guess it is easy to just take it and leave, or it's visible to people when they come in to visit. The other thing that I found quite interesting was how I was targeted. And luckily, he confessed. Everything all makes sense now. But in my other video, I told you about the directories and how teachers have their names and addresses and phone numbers and all that in the directories that are passed out to students, and it has everything listed. Well, the two of them, I guess him and his group of friends, were going to target one of the students at the high school I was teaching at. The girl student of mine, she was the one that had the directory, and she knew all the other students, right? So they were trying to find a student that one of the other guy, the one from Osaka, could start getting cozy with and become their boyfriend or whatever, and use that student as the target for money. So that was their plan. But unbeknownst to my student, the two guys were looking at the directory, and found my name. And all of a sudden they thought, okay, a teacher's a better target because obviously they're going to have a salary. They're going to have more money than a student. They assumed because I was a foreigner and I didn't have the language skills that I would be a good target. And yeah, I guess they were right, except I'd like to think that I was one step ahead of them. So after all of this, I mean, the evidence clearly showed that I was targeted for these reasons. This is what they got. They didn't exactly get what they wanted because I am not rich. I didn't have what they wanted. And I had a great network of friends that helped me out. Well, after all of this, I got all my items back, and the police department and everybody handling the case, the lawyers or whatever, they asked, or they wanted to make a deal with me. They would issue a restraining order. This was not like me saying, could I have a restraining order? This was them saying, we'd like to issue a restraining order so he is not to come near you, make contact with you, or have anything to do with anywhere nearby you. If he does, and if you let us know that he's in the area, or anybody that sees him coming after you, if he makes any contact, you call and he'll be arrested. But we'd like to not go through a court case because it would involve so many things, and we would just like this taken care of as a warning. All of your things will be returned to you, and he will be on a probationary period, but we don't want to, we want to deal with it in this way, if that is okay with you. And I agreed. Maybe some people would have said, no, I want to press charges, I want to go through it. But thinking about how long the case would take, and I wasn't physically hurt. I wasn't physically hurt. I didn't lose anything. So we handled the case, and that was that. Sometimes maybe it takes an incident like this not only to make yourself feel stronger or really take control of certain things in your life, but maybe for results to happen for everybody. So I felt that by speaking out at that advisory meeting and letting them know that foreigners may need help, we may not always have the language skills that are fluent enough to communicate when we are in trouble or need help or are involved in a problem. We don't always know what we're supposed to do or how we can get something done to keep ourselves safe. And having that advisory meeting maybe helped alert the people that are in charge of residential satisfaction or safety that this is a potential problem, or this is an area that could be looked at. I'm so grateful, I mean truly grateful, for the friends that I had that helped me through this, and the police department, because always you think, oh my gosh, like dealing with situations like this is so stressful when it comes to law stuff or police department stuff, but they were extremely supportive. Here you think in your apartment or in your neighborhood you're vulnerable, but you actually have a lot of ways that, or people around you, or things that they could do to make sure you're safe. You could think that you're alone, and that's the scary part, but if you've reported or if you've made it known that something is going on that you don't feel safe about, you can have guardian angels watching over you in ways that maybe you didn't know, ways that I didn't know. And it made me feel a lot more secure in my surroundings. It was hard because at that time, since we didn't have internet or email or all that kind of stuff, it was really hard because you really relied on meeting people face to face. When I think about it, all the people that were legit people that I had to meet and do business dealings with, and all the people that I assumed were the same, but were not. They were after something else or just curious. We have a lot more ways to screen people or to check people out that we didn't have back then. So thank you, technology, and thank you for giving us ways to protect ourselves a bit more than we had back then. You know, my motto was always, I make the mistakes so you don't have to. And this was one, I don't want to say big mistake. I did make a mistake in that first letting my guard down and trusting somebody and believing that they needed help. I made the mistake of believing somebody to be my friend when they weren't, and not even assuming that somebody that you're letting into your house or your one-room mansion was going to go so far as to steal your keys and make copy and then come into your place when you're not home. And that's pretty scary. And that can probably still happen to any of you. But it's not, because you've watched this video and you're gonna know that, yeah, that you'll take whatever precautions you need to so that won't happen, right? I hope not. Anyways, that was my story. That was my lesson learned the hard way, but it was also a lesson that made me stronger and feel more inspired to help people like any of you that are planning to come and move to Japan, and maybe make you feel a little less vulnerable. I think if you ask a lot of the foreigners that have been in Japan for a while, I think everybody will share with you a story, maybe not exactly like this, but an incident similar to any of the ones that I've talked to you about before. And I do know people that have went home because they couldn't deal or feel safe in their situation. I know there are still a great many incidents that happen that still make you question, why did this happen? Why did this person have to go through this? Or why did this person have to go through A, B, and C in order to get this situation taken care of when it should have been done immediately? Or just because this person is a foreigner, why were they made to wait and go through all this stuff just to get help? This situation did not turn me off to Japan or to people that want to learn English and just want to meet with you for that particular purpose, or living alone, all those things. I think trust yourself, trust your instincts, and just know and just be assured there are people that can help you if you reach out. I found that. It's kind of therapeutic for me to get it all out, because these are crazy things that I've dealt with, and I do feel that they made me a lot stronger Sometimes, you know, when you hear these stories or of other people, you think, my God, I am so glad my life is not like theirs. Or, what made her do this? Or, why was she such an idiot? Why was she so vulnerable, right? And then you think, my life is so much better. I sometimes watch YouTube videos and I think, my gosh, my life is not so bad. Like, you know, how could they get themselves into that situation? I'm so glad I haven't done that. Maybe you find yourself saying that when you're watching my videos. So maybe if I've entertained you or if I've just made you feel better that your life is a lot more calmer, I'm glad. I'm happy that that is the reaction I can give. Thank goodness my life is so much more peaceful than Kim's life. All right. Thank you so much for listening and being here, and I will see you, I hope, in the next video. Thank you. Bye.